Your supernatural toolbox as a human being has been locked. This is a very important statement, because when you understand what this perceivably supernatural toolbox is, what it is made up of, what it gives you access to, it completely alters the way by which you live your life. And you stop living your life from a space of ultimately having been deceived into a certain modality, a certain way. And you begin to be able to live your life with more joy and more happiness and more comfort and more connectivity and unity. Begin to be able to live your life with the presence of God as a guarantee every single day. No matter what role you are playing here, that presence will be a guarantee. Before I start, I want to say a quick thank you to everybody who's been involved in the 2000 Strong project. We are nearly 25% there for our stage 1 fundraising goal, and that is to raise $200,000 by New Year, so as we can finish stage 1 and have a functional children's village for nearly 100 special needs children. That stage 1 is already on its way. Literally now as I speak, the builders are there, and that wouldn't have been possible without you guys, so I just keep forgetting to say a thank you, but I want to say a huge thank you on behalf of the children who will live there, the children we know who are waiting to live there, and from myself personally for believing in this vision that I was given from a space inside this supernatural toolbox I reference. Thank you. This supernatural toolbox. The interesting thing about this is that many will find this concept entertaining, and many will stay without the toolbox, entertaining a space of consciousness where they don't have access to the toolbox with ideas and stories about this toolbox. It's a very peculiar part of being a human. Rather than having it, rather than walking into it and living from it, we live from the space where we don't have access to it and would rather watch videos and listen to people to be entertained by the idea that it's there. But few will take the plunge. I think few take the plunge not out of choice either. I think it happens by accident that they don't, because they get caught in the maze of the mind and freedom of it. They get caught in the space of thought and living without it. This supernatural toolbox that I reference, it arises inside the capacities of a human, in the capacities of your awareness, your consciousness, the human organism that you are, and the soul that animates it. It arrives when you reach the truth of your current position in this reality. And that truth is ultimately one that you don't know where you are and what and who you are. This is the ultimate truth that we must reach through dismantling, deprogramming our consciousness. And I will show you what I mean by that. I did this exercise before where I said, you and I are going into a forest, and I want you to make space as we go into this forest to be able to connect with this presence, this connection to our awareness. And so I want you to hang your name on this tree. And so you hang your name, you hang your nationality, all things you don't need to do this. And you hang your career path, and I'm doing a shortened version here, but you hang your relationships, that you're a father, a brother, You hang them all on this tree, and you keep hanging them to lighten yourself of all of these labels and roles. And you get to the point where you're hanging, and now a stranger comes along and says, "Excuse me, but who is hanging all of these things on the tree?" And you are left with the option of saying, "Oh, well, it's me." And the stranger says, "Who is this me?" "Well, it's John." It can't be, because John's hanging on the tree. Who is the one who hung that on the tree? You can't possibly be. It can't be John, because it's been hung on the tree. And you are left with all of these roles and identity labels that you have created in your mind to make a structure of self, which the material of self is thought and memory. You've hung it all on the tree. It's all there. And so none of those things can possibly be that which remains and is aware that it's hung those things on the tree. And so when you dig down into it, you're left with two answers for this stranger. One is, I don't know. I don't know who is hanging those things on the tree, and yet here I am. I am still here and present. But all the labels I've tried to define myself with, human, I've hung it on the tree. Christian, I've hung it on the tree. Soul, spirit, I've hung it on the tree. My name, my nationality, I've hung it on the tree. All of these labels I have hung on the tree, and yet still I remain able to hang these things on the tree, and able and aware that these things I was aware of are now separate and hung on this tree, and yet I still remain. And that which remains, you don't know. And you can say, I don't know, but a lot of people will return to a space where they say, I am hanging those things on the tree. And of course, this I am is a mask for the fact that you don't know who it is. You don't know who has hung these attributes on the tree. It is the great unknown, and the great unknown resides in you and is animating you and is you, and you are in the great unknown. And ultimately when you say I am, which you can deduct all the way back to the point in language where you're left with I am the one hanging those things on the tree. And in the Bible, when challenged, Jesus said, before Abraham was, I am. God gave his name once in the Bible, I am that I am. I am not saying that we are God. I don't know what the weather's going to be today, but I am saying that we are part of and within God, just as it states biblically as well. And when you when you deprogram and realign, retune yourself back to that truth, who can hang all of these labels and identities of self, spiritual, religious, scientific, academic, otherwise, relationship, and yet still remain, you are left with, I am the one hanging those things on the tree, which is a mask for, I don't know. I don't know. I am still, I am present, I am looking, I am seeing, I am doing. Yet I am hanging those things on the tree, and yet as you inquire as to what that I am is, really it masks the truth that you don't know who you are and what you are, and yet you have all of these labels, which is a game of language and reference to try and make sense of it and ground yourself into a functionality. And it's likewise with where you are. You may think, well, I know where I am. I'm here. I'm in Germany. And I say, where's Germany? It's in Europe. Where is Europe? It's on planet Earth. Where is planet Earth? It's in a solar system. Our language is always going off reference. Where is the solar system? It's in the Milky Way galaxy. Where is that galaxy? It's in the universe. Where is the universe? It's in a multiverse. Where is the multiverse? You run out of a point of reference. And when you run out of a point of reference, the game, the illusion formed by language ends. And it is the arrogance of the self that makes you believe you know where you are. You don't know where you are in actuality. Science does not know where you are. Religion does not know where you are. Spirituality does not know where you are. All of these linguistic frameworks and terms have tried to point at some knowingness, But what they tried to lead us to was the knowingness that we do not know. We do not know where we are. We do not know what we are. And this is beautiful. Because when you don't know where you are and you don't know what you are, it comes to a point where you recognize that your usual way of doing things, this persistent analysis of this infiniteness that's going on, seems to be very flawed and limited. And here we awaken the truth, where we let go of the arrogance of the pretense that we know and fall into a space of consciousness whereby an arising of a new way can begin. And that way is a way of faith. And it begins in a way of humility. For the humility, the true humility, comes from acknowledging the arrogance of the analytical mind, the thought-based self, of constantly pretending that it knows when it doesn't. And that's the whole point of breaking down that structure of self, is that you break down the great illusion that you know, and you must therefore return to the point of not knowing, which is a point of surrender to the truth of the mystery that you are and within, and I am speaking to you and you are listening to it, that we don't know what we are and where we are, despite our game of language and reference. And this works with everything. Anything you try to decipher with analysis and language, even scientific, you will reach the point of acknowledgement when you run out of reference that you don't know. Science can say that it's water, it's a molecule, it's made of atoms, it's made of electrons, and eventually they get to a point where they go, but we don't fully understand that because there's no point of reference anymore. And so it's always a game of pretend that we know. When you break that down and you enter that space of consciousness where you become free of the illusion of knowing, you begin to be spiritually reborn, because now you are moving away from the self who lives in the manner of the 3D self's matrix interactions. By that I mean the mind moves around in the world, it sees what it sees, it analyzes what it sees, it weighs up decisions, and it functions from that voice of the self in the head. That voice of the self which is built on a certain set of perceptions that are built in a complete fantasy that humans know. And yet we do function, and it's a wonderful thing that we have this, but we need to know how to not have it so we can be free and happy and not so tense and not so lost in the self. And also to have our supernatural toolbox opened. You function as the self, you move through your life, you analyze, you store your memories, you bring up an image of what you are, of who you are. Your memories are supposed to be able to bring forward lessons from the past to make the flow of life here in that ever-present eternal now you live in easier. You can look at the past and bring up your memory that you know to do this when it repeats. You know to turn right and not left because you've made that mistake before. But we are not using memory in that way or teaching our children how to use their memory in that way. And so we are constantly having an image of self and all of its wounds and traumas. And we are constantly analysing and using that voice to navigate life. Now, that will remain. If my car breaks, I will look, analyse the situation and work out a solution. It still remains a part of the toolbox of the human life. But if we are to look at, and I don't like so much to share personal anecdotes when I speak like this, because whatever happened in the story of this human organism here is akin to the wind blowing in a tree. It was just a force and occurrence of nature behind us. The river meandered to the right, this human meandered to the right. And see it that way with looseness. But what I can say is that an example of this is that as this human I wouldn't have been able to analyze into the idea, nor did I have any plans, dreams, study on building villages for special needs children in crisis. That was given inside the toolbox, the supernatural toolbox. It was handed as a notion, a concept of life, as a direction of life to this organism from the supernatural toolbox. And so where is that toolbox? It's where you reach the point of the great unknown. When you reach the point without self, there you can function in a new way. You have one man who must analyze his way through his day. He is relying on the voice of self for all that he does, and that voice, self and its structure, is made of thought and memory. That's what it is made of. The self you believe yourself to be, your name, mother, father, brother, sister, doctor, bus driver, all of those images are made of thought and memory. You are aware of those things, and I've said this often, so you are beyond that. You are the awareness that is aware of them, but you still need these roles, and these roles are fantastic. They make this wonderful, magical system of society work that we are in. But not everybody within there is happy. Not everybody is content and peaceful and loving and feel comforted with the presence. It's a great struggle and drudgery for many. And it shouldn't be that way. And if they knew how to be aware of the roles that they were tangled in, they would access the space of healing for that struggle far more easily, from that depression, that sadness of life that many face when they forget and believe they are these roles. They forget their profoundly larger nature. One is analysing through life, passing through, driving a bus. Two bus drivers. One is passing through life, analysing, passing through, has worries, anxieties, doesn't know where to turn, is constantly grinding their mind, trying to analyse it. The other one is doing the same life, the same job, but now has problems and can call on a cosmic intelligence that is beyond the self and its constant agonising, grinding analysis of everything. It knows it can go into a state of deep peace and a wonderful cosmic intelligence and love that we have pointed at with the word God can arise inside the organism. This is a space whereby the supernatural toolbox is. And the difference is that one is able to be free of self and one is full of self. The whole notion that you're supposed to give your life to Jesus is not that Jesus needs you to have another label that needs hanging on the tree. It's that he needs all of those labels hanging on the tree and then an allowance for the way of that energy, of that spirit, to animate the intelligence and the speech and the actions of the human life that you are. Not that you live from the state where you're constantly analysing everything and add another image in there, another concept of self based in thought and memory, I am born again. No, the whole process of living that way from analysis and self needs to be surrendered. It has to be let go. And in that letting go, there you give your life to Christ. Because in that letting go, you let go of self, and self is the arrogant one who feels it knows. God is the one that knows, not self. And so you may say, so what about this supernatural toolbox? Well, a part of you will want to hear, what is this toolbox? What goodies are in there? But you will know that when you enter it. And you should enter it by entering a surrender into God's presence, into God's way. And how does that occur? It occurs when you reach the point of I am, the admittance of I don't know. Hang all of the labels of yourself, truth seeker, spiritual teacher, spiritual searcher, meditation teacher, yogi, priest, doctor, scientist, physicist, anthropologist, hang it all on the tree, hang it on Mother, Father, hang it on the tree, hang it on, and ask, what on earth remains? What on earth remains here now alive, looking out of this body that is able to hang all of these labels on the tree? And the answer to that is either I am or I don't know. And here we find a space of surrender. And there, when you acknowledge you don't know, you can start to enter a new way of living. And that new way does not involve self in the driving seat and analysis in the driving seat. It involves the presence of something more. But that presence to unlock the supernatural toolbox in your life, so you can be guided by synchronicity, where you overcome the world and healings take place, etc. It requires something. And the requirement is that the carnal mind, biblically the carnal mind is enmity to the laws of God. The self, the image of you built in thought, is opposed to the laws of God. It requires that that is not present for a time. It requires that that is not present for a time, and in that not being present for a time, you move into a space of faith where you trust the will of something you can't see. This cosmic intelligence and love we've pointed at with the term God, which loves us dearly, and God does love us dearly. And it will move. And it will show you what to the self is a supernatural toolbox. And many will say, but what are these supernatural tools? I'm not there to entertain you. I'm there to say, go and find out. Find out what your anointings are. Find out if you'll be praying in the language of spirit, in the language of tongues. Find out if you'll be bringing forth healing by overcoming the world, by changing the program of this 3D matrix, by letting go of the perceptions programmed into the organism you are, that somehow you know something here, that you know where you are, etc. Overcome it. And there you will walk, and something completely outside of the normal perceptions of how a human lives will guide and move in your life, and it will be supernatural to other humans who do not understand it. We live from something deeper than reaction. We live from something deeper than 5 sense input from the world. It still plays its role, but we live from something deeper. And we call and draw on something deeper. And then as we go about living our roles, whatever they may be, being a full-time mum, a full-time dad, or a cashier, or a brain surgeon, we do it with a profound connection to an immense unity and joy and love. And that's what matters. Because when we feel that love and joy, we bring that love and joy. And it comes from the supernatural toolbox. But that comes from admitting and starting fresh as a human, that you have no idea who you are and where you are. And therefore, if all of these years of your mind trying to work it out and being told this and told that still does not know who you are and where you are, is there a force beyond that mind that can lead you, that can show you how life can be here, the same force that makes the geese migrate? Can it speak with, through, to you? And the answer is undeniably yes. But it's to live from stillness, where all things are made manifest. To live from stillness when all you are is accessed. Not that the self is still. The self is gone, and what remains is that stillness. And the self will return, but it will return better. It will be nourished by the stillness and more compassionate due to it. So who knows what's in your toolbox? But I do know how to open your toolbox. And if you follow these practices and you truly give your life over to Christ, Not that you remain in the same functionality in this 3D matrix as you did and then add that idea on, but you give your life over to Christ, to a new way, a supernatural man, a spirit man. Your toolbox will be revealed. It starts with humility, of admitting you don't know. And God guides the humble. What is more humble than a human standing in front of this almighty, expansive creation with a complete acceptance of not knowing where it is, how it is, what it is, and calling on whatever makes this creation function so well to make its life function so well. And they're the one who knit you together in your mother's womb, will knit together your world and your life inside the world through the guidance that will be revealed in that new way of life, which is your supernatural toolbox. God bless, guys. God is awesome. I love you all.